Hi, my name is Richard Capone, and I'm the CEO of Let's Go Learn. And today I'm going to talk to you about how we're supporting English language learners with our data-driven personalized learning solution. Well, first, I want to point out what our philosophy is. We do follow the AI cycle philosophy or model, which means we believe assessment drives instruction, and in turn, you use data from instruction or assessment data to modify your instructional path. So it's a constant cycle. In other words, we also see that there's different types of assessment. Diagnostic assessment, formative assessment is going to allow us to have this AI cycle. Accountability assessment, while it's important, it's not as important in the classroom because teachers really need more detailed data. Now, if we do this right, we are able to achieve and hit grade level standards, and that's the ultimate goal, but we realize we can't always start with standards in our testing because when students are way below grade level, as often ELL students are, we need to look at a different model. Now, how do we do this? Well, first of all, we look at assessment as a multiple measure testing. So we look at 7 different measures, the 6 shown here plus phonemic awareness, and we adapt up and down to find students' zone of proximal development. This is where they are ready to learn. Now, this is really important because this transcends grade level. Grade level is great. It tells you where you're supposed to be. But if you actually want to help students, you need to know where is their instructional point, regardless of their grade. And that's really important. So we go up and down to find each student's exact point through a K-12 range. Now next, when you're done with that diagnostic assessment, that's very granular, you're able to use a wide variety of reports, like the summary report, to share with students. It's something they can understand, and we also bring them into the process so they realize there's different types of skills they need to work on. The teacher report gives teachers real detailed data to help them in their classrooms. We have reports in Spanish, and then we also have reports for parents as well so that they understand and can be pulled into the process. So there's no shortage of reports depending on what you want to do. Now, here's an example of a parent report. Notice how the words are we're not using any jargon. So how Marita reads words. So this particular student within decoding, she's stronger in high-frequency words, but she's lower in phonics and word recognition. So we're going to point that out. We talk about how she can memorize words seen frequently in stories. Those are your sight words. But she has a hard time figuring out words that are tricky using phonics. So again, we're trying to make this all very, very understandable. We see grade level scores that are understandable by parents, teachers, and administrators, as opposed to norm reference scores or just some scores that are some random numbers, right? Scaled score saying 725 doesn't mean anything to students and parents and even to teachers. So again, it's being very, very thoughtful about how our reports are written, how they're worded for all different stakeholders. Now, the next thing is if you're a teacher and you suddenly say, hey, I want to work and create some small groups, one thing you could do is I can break my class up into phonics groups. So if I look at this, we see the specific skills. You start off with beginning consonants, and then we move on to short vowels, consonant blends, long vowels, and we see exactly which students are at what point. So these 2 students here are working on multi-syllables. These 3 students down below have mastered phonics. This student here, Jonathan, is working on R-controlled vowels. So again, this creates instantly my small groups for myself, which is really important. Now, another way to look at groups is more across all measures. And this is what we call the DORA profile report. DORA is our reading assessment. It stands for Diagnostic Online Reading Assessment. And here I can see my class broken up into groups. The students in group A are low across decoding, vocabulary, and comprehension. The students in C and D are going to be good in decoding but low in comprehension. And the D students are also low in vocabulary. And here's an interesting little anomaly as well, is the G group. So what's interesting about this is students who are good in decoding, good in comprehension strategy, but low in vocabulary. Now, we are one of the few assessments that doesn't just assess comprehension with vocabulary, because as you know, ELL students sometimes will have high comprehension strategy skills but low vocabulary. And if you give them a standard assessment, the state test, some kind of readability assessment, often it'll falsely say the student is low in comprehension when really it's a vocabulary issue. We don't do that because our passages are written with lower vocabulary, and it's just testing sentence complexity, ability for students to read more complicated sentences, paragraphs with longer words, with more syllables, and so on and so forth. All right. So again, this report is very powerful. It could also be used for PLCs at grade level, and it can be run across an entire school when you're using our data portal. So let's say we want to drill down a little bit more into individual student. And I do want to just point out this profile C because this is so important to ELL students. Again, this is just looking at this example. If I clicked on that G as a teacher, I could now look and see this specific student. There was only one student in that category, but if it was many students, I would see who it was. I could see that they were doing really well. I think this was a 5th grade student, so she's doing well in comprehension, 7.5, low in vocabulary, high 3rd, and her decodings were very strong. So we see the profile here as well for how do we explain or how do we understand this type of student. So again, this also helps educate teachers or tutors or parents about each student's profile. Now the next piece to all this is personalized learning. So once you have your assessment, students can be optionally enrolled into LGL ELA Edge. So this program will basically create 60 custom lessons for each student. And if students like that one previous student, Adriana, she didn't need any decoding. So she would primarily get comprehension and vocabulary lessons, or maybe grammar if she needed that. So in other words, all students are assigned lessons based on their needs. Now, as far as how we approach this, we follow the cognitive load theory, and that's what makes our instruction so effective. So first of all, you start off with a really good assessment, right? We find the student's ZPD. Then we make sure that we present it as easily as possible so that it's cognitively digestible for the student. And the way we do this is I'll show you a lesson later, but our lessons use animation, they use songs, they use catchy tunes, and we use practice. So that's really important. And the third thing is to allow for reinforcement. So we have a whole gaming system where your students earn badges and they can repeat lessons where they maybe didn't quite master something. And so those are the 3 points of cognitive load theory, and that's what we support. Now, how can we instruct students? So there's actually 3 more ways to do this. There's a direct automated course that each student is generated for each student. They get that, and they just log on during their personalized learning time. Or teachers can assign specific lessons. So if you know the student needs short vowel, or you feel like they need some strengthening in main idea, you can do that. And the third way is the teacher can do group lessons. So the teacher can play any individual EDGE lesson for the entire class, and they could go on the whiteboard and maybe do the gaming portion of it together. So let's go ahead and take a look at a lesson.
Look at this paragraph about planets. The main idea is that there are 8 planets that move around the sun. It has many details which support this main idea. These supporting details explain and describe the main idea to help us understand it better. For example, one detail explains where the word planet.
So initially, the student would only be given this lesson if they were stronger in decoding, right? So I'm showing you a main idea. So if someone was very, very weak in decoding, we'd probably see some decoding lessons first. But let's assume the student was strong. They would get a lesson like this. It starts explaining stuff with graphics, explaining what main idea is. And then it's going to transition into another section, which I'm going to jump forward to show you.
Before you start finding details, let's find out the 5 questions that details often answer. Who, what, when, where, and why.
When you read a passage, you need to understand it. Ask a lot of questions to help you understand it. These are the questions to help you get by. Who, what, where, when, why? Who are the people you're reading about? What really happened? Think it all out. Where did it happen? The address, the place, when, the day, month, year, time of day. Why? Name the cause. Why it all happened. The answers will help you understand right away. 5 easy questions to help you get by. Who, what, where, when, why?
You can check off all the detail boxes. Read this passage and answer this detailed question.
All right, now I'm in the gaming portion. I have to get 100 points and maintain 75% or higher in order to get a bronze. And if I go up to 90% it's silver, and then 100%, or I'm sorry, 90 is for silver and 95 is for gold. So I have these badges I need to get. So right now, let me get this correct.
Good. Answer this one.
Now, if I get one incorrect, let's try another question.
No. The talent contest was held in Tracy Hall.
Notice immediately I get corrective feedback telling me, oh, I got that wrong, and it tells me and shows me in the passage where the correct answer. Notice I did not get any more points, and my rate went down to 50%. So I need to start getting some right answers so I can keep my mastery percentage high. All right, so that's essentially how all lessons are organized. Explicit instruction, there's usually a tune that allows students to memorize and key things about reading, and then it moves into a gaming section. So this is how the student's personalized learning path looks. From right here, when I log in as a student, I am given 60 lessons and they're unique to me. So whether you're a student who is maybe very low or someone who's a little bit low or maybe even somebody who's high, you get your own personalized learning path so all students can compete. It ensures equity and access, of course, and then you see the different lessons that they're assigned and you just sort of go through it. And notice this student has some bronze and some silver and some gold. Gold, the student is done. During a review period, the teacher might say every week or 2 weeks, hey, let's go back and do a review. The student may go back and try to redo those lessons to get them up to gold. Okay, the last thing I want to do is talk about how we're supporting the school district and ELL initiatives to wrap things up. So first of all, it's important to have a diagnostic assessment that is sort of a next generation assessment that's going to support your initiatives. And that means having it in Spanish and English. Our assessments are both in Spanish and English, and we also have it for math in Spanish and English. The next thing is ensuring equity and access. Again, this is not just some buzzword. The key here is having assessments that can actually differentiate students who are below grade level, who may be struggling, or who are ELL students. And that's really important. That's what we do at Let's Go Learn. DORA can also be used for EL reclassification. Often in reclassification you need multiple measures. We could also work with the school district to help set up data portal reports that allow you to easily export and find out and set custom thresholds. Now, in terms of ELA Edge effectiveness, we talked about the personalized learning product, but it could be implemented depending on your initiative. If you have an RTI initiative, it could be done in a pullout. If you have an initiative that's focusing on ELL students, you could do it as an ELD pullout as well. Or it could also be done in class as a tier 1 supplemental. The last couple initiatives I want to talk about are family engagement and student engagement. And these are really, really important because nowadays we know that the most important factor often in a student's success is their own engagement. We have data that supports parents and students, we have data that's understandable, and we have mechanisms to help share those reports. All right, that's it in a nutshell. I'd just like to invite you to come visit our website. We have other white papers you can download, and we have other webinars you can participate and watch. All right, thank you very much.